Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Segment number 2, if you're keeping track. And right now, guys, let's talk about UFC 205. So, the UFC is making its grand premiere, their grand introduction into the most famous arena in the world. I know that's been said a lot of times, but it's so true. Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Every musical superstar has played there. You know, championships have been won there.
Yeah.
Big boxing title fights have been there. And now
It's about
finally,
time.
the UFC will be there.
Toledo buckets.
So let's talk about a couple of the fights. Of course, one of the big fights is going to be for the welterweight title.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing Tyron Woodley taking on Steve Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting fight because Woodley won the title, and then all of a sudden he felt like he was McGregor Jr. He was the shot caller. He could call his fights and say, no, I don't want to fight you. I want to go and fight. I'm going to call out George St. Pierre. He's looking for these big money fights. Dana White was like, okay, slow down.
Yeah.
You're not McGregor Jr. Maybe you're McGregor the fourth. But anyways, no, you're not going to call your own shots, and you're going to have to fight the number one contender, which is such a revelation that this is actually happening, that a number one is going to be fighting for the title. So stylistically, what do you guys think of this fight? I mean, I think that a couple years ago, Johnny Hendricks was supposed to be Mr. Invincible in the welterweight division. You know, he had that phenomenal fight against George St. Pierre. Mm-hmm. But then he goes and he fights Steve Wonderboy Thompson a couple years later, and Wonderboy makes him look like the easiest fight he's ever had.
Well,
just completely dismantled him.
Let's be real about
post-testing.
Yeah, like Nathan and I were watching that fight, and I think we both said the moment he walked into the ring, Hendricks, we were like, what is going on? It was like they took Hendricks' head and put it on a completely different body. I mean, his body was completely different. His muscle mass was completely different. And that just kind of made us even lose, like, not like I really had a lot. I wasn't a big fan of his to begin with, but after that, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, so now I guess we kind of know where you got your extra chutzpah from.
So the Chad Mendez route, perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I love that you tapped into Woodley. So that was the one thing. Once he won, it was just like, well, look at the cojones on this guy. Just thinking that he just is owed all these things because he's just so fantastic. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, pardon?
Yeah. I don't think he thinks he's owed. I think he's scared of fighting Wonderboy Thompson because not a fan of MMA math, but if you look what Rory did to Tyrone, and then you see what Woodley did to Rory, he's like, you do the math on that, and he's going to look really bad.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I think you look at Wonderboy, and I can't really judge his fight against Rory because they were buddies, right? And
they trained with him.
They trained with each other. They were buddies. He's like, I'm sorry, I broke your nose. It was kind of a mistake. Didn't really mean to do that. Can we still be boys? We didn't really want to do that. But I think it's going to be a completely different beast here.
Yeah.
I look at Woodley, and Woodley is kind of like the Bisping type of champion in the sense of here's a guy who has a lot of losses, but has somehow managed to get the title, and now he wants to pick his spots. And sure, if I was him, I'd want that money fight against St. Pierre. Get me paid before I get my butt kicked. And I think it's going to be a short-lived title reign. I really like Wonderboy's chances in this fight.
Me too, and I want Wonderboy to win big time. But I mean, it's going to be a stand-up fight for sure. They're going to try and punch each other out. I mean, I think that's going to be the game plan.
I think he's going to try to take him down as soon as he can.
Wonderboy?
Tyrone's going to try to take Wonderboy down as soon as he can. But the problem is he knows his kicks, like spinning back kicks. If he goes in for a takedown, he can just get knocked out right away. So he's going to have to be very, very, very careful about it. But I think he's going to. You just want to stand with him. Like his kicks, his striking is ridiculous.
It's true. It is true.
It's just he has to watch out his speed. Like he's going to be trying to knock him out in the first round. After that, Tyrone's going to try to take him down.
Because
when you say when you say his speed, are you referring to Wonderboy's speed?
No, sorry, Tyrone's. Actually, both of their speed.
Yeah.
But Woodley's speed. He's got crazy good speed. That's probably why Lawler no longer the champion.
But what about his tank though? Do you think if it goes deep, he's got a chance?
No, I mean, sorry, for who, Woodley?
For Woodley, because I kind of look at Woodley.
I think Thompson would outlast Woodley.
Yeah, because I look at the comparison with him and Anthony Rumble Johnson in the sense of Anthony Rumble Johnson has got ridiculous power.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Number one on the list of UFC fighters, I never want to punch me.
Yeah.
And number 2 to the rest of the list is all the other fighters, but I'm putting him number 1. But I'm saying that Woodley's kind of like, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but he's like, because of the weight difference, obviously, but he's a smaller version of that. He comes in, he's got the awesome power in the beginning, but as the fight carries on, he's going to be gassed. And I don't think he's got the endurance to go. So I think the longer the fight goes on, it favors Thompson. But even in the early rounds, I think Thompson's crazy footwork, he could get in there.
Yeah,
I don't think it goes. I don't think this fight goes 5 rounds.
Oh no,
I don't think so because almost half of their wins on both sides half of their wins are through knockout anyway. So I mean, that's why I'm kind of thinking they're gonna stand up and go for each other. But to your point, Woodley, because he's so stocky but yet compacted and full, if he's doing a lot of bombs, I think he's going to expend way more energy and then he's going to wear out faster, which will be a play to Wonderboy, who I think is a little bit more in control of when to go for it, as opposed to Woodley, which is kind of like, you ever see that Simpsons episode where Bart Simpson and Lisa Simpson, they're like, I'm going to walk like this, and if you get in my way, it's your own fault. That's how I kind of look like with Woodley. He's just kind of like, rah, and if you're in my way, I'm going to murder you.
Yeah, and if he doesn't have to worry about hitting his best friend's nose this time. So it's interesting because on the one hand, Thompson was saying, "Hey, I want to fight Lawler because Lawler had the belt," and Woodley took that as a shot. So Woodley's trying to defend his reputation and his integrity, if you will, and the other guy's going for a title. And the end of the day, quick predictions: I'm taking Thompson in this fight. What do you guys have?
Me too. Total.
Yeah. All right. Jumping into the main event, Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor for the lightweight title. Excuse me, he's went after so many titles, it's hard to keep track. Going after the lightweight title. Now, I had the opportunity of checking out some of Alvarez's older fights on, some of his recent fights, I guess you should say, on Fight Pass. So, of course, knocked out Dos Anjos, took the title, but he won, I believe it was a split decision against Anthony Pettis. And he lost to Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah.
And I look at Eddie Alvarez, and I mean, mad respect. The guy won the title. He took out Dos Anjos, and that was great. And he's saying all of the right things coming into this fight. He's saying all the right things, and I don't, not necessarily the part where he's like, I want an easy fight, but saying the things in terms of acting like he's not intimidated by McGregor. He's not taken over by the whole McGregor mystique, and he's ready to get in there with him. But when I look at the resume of Eddie Alvarez, I'm not overly impressed. Yeah. So as much as I'm not a fan of McGregor just bypassing anybody he wants, snapping his fingers and getting any fight he wants. Right. I mean, we've been over that, but I'm not necessarily convinced that Eddie Alvarez is going to be the one to stop him.
No,
and then, one quick question. If he does stop him, does that mean Dana has to give him a rematch with Eddie Alvarez a couple months later just to make McGregor feel good again?
Oh, yeah, the trifecta is usually what they do these days.
Yeah.
So I guess, I'll go first, if that's okay. Yeah. It's tough. I think it's going to be a stand-up again because, the things that I love on the stats on this is that 85% of Conor McGregor's wins are through knockout versus, 61% of Alvarez. But if you look, one stat that I think is impressive about Alvarez is that his takedown defense is 92%. Okay. 92% of the time, you cannot take the man down. Yeah. So if I was McGregor's team, I think I would be thinking about strategies to stand up, kicks, that kind of stuff, because let's face it, Conor McGregor's not known for submissions. So that's not going to happen. And so I think that's what we got to kind of look for. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Conor McGregor, especially coming off the hype of beating Diaz and beating a guy that's bigger and lankier, lankier is what I want to go for. I think that hype and that kind of confidence as well. They've obviously got a winning formula on their team, and I think that McGregor is actually going to win. Yeah, I think so.
All right, I think there's a good chance Eddie Alvarez might win. I'm not saying he's going to win, but Conor McGregor doesn't have the greatest gas tank when dealing with bigger guys. So it depends how he handles his weight adjustments. Because with Nate, he didn't have a very good weight adjustment to 170. So at 155, maybe he puts on the weight better and can handle it. But Eddie Alvarez can go 5 rounds, no problem. And he's got really good wrestling and takedown defense. So Conor might not be striking. It might be like with Chad Mendes. And Chad Mendes messed him up pretty good. He won, but he just gassed out. He just gassed out in that fight. So when we look at this matchup, though, do you honestly feel that with McGregor coming off of this fight, do you think the 10 pounds is going to make a big difference? Because when you look at a lot of these fighters when they go into the weigh-in,
they look depleted.
Yeah.
They look like a vacuum came and sucked everything out of them, and they're just kind of wilting away.
Joe Rogan talks about it all the time.
And then when they get to the fight, they've kind of like released.
Because they have water in them.
Yeah, so McGregor made the joke about, well, not the joke, but the statement about fighting at 170, steak for breakfast, steak for dinner, and all this stuff. Do you think that 155 might be a better suited weight for him, and that he might thrive more there, or do you think that's still going to be,
I don't think he's ever going back to 145.
Okay. You don't think so?
No.
Yeah.
I think because of that, because he's putting on muscle mass. I think George St. Pierre said that about going up to fight Anderson a while ago at 185. Yeah. Once you put on that muscle mass, you have to do it properly because you're not going to be able to punch the same. So that's why I think he had trouble with Nate Diaz, is because he put on a bunch of mass, but he didn't know how to throw with it properly.
So you're talking about like the range of movement.
Yeah, just throwing with extra weight. Yeah.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I just want our viewers to know, at certain times you might see us pointing down here. We actually have a tablet that has the different fights. So I want you to know that we don't have all of the UFC fighters kidnapped here in the kitchen. There's a tablet here.
I would kidnap Conor McGregor though.
Yeah, I actually would.
Yeah, and we would hopefully let him go back quickly, because you can do better than Conor McGregor.
That's a good answer.
I'm secure enough in my manhood that I can name probably at least 3 to 5 UFC fighters that I think you should crush over before Conor McGregor.
So, oh my God, we'll have to save that for last.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to do that publicly. Okay, are there any other fights on this card that stand out to you? Of course, the women's strawweight fight is there. We've got the Battle of Poland. Yolanda has been absolutely fantastic, but she's got a pretty fierce opponent here, so it's going to be a very interesting battle. I mean, a lot of times when people think about the women's division, they automatically go to bantamweight. They automatically go to Ronda Rousey's division. But thanks to Ronda Rousey for opening up women's MMA, we do have the strawweight division. I think this is going to be a pretty good fight.
It's going to be a great fight because they're both undefeated.
Yeah.
And Jodecki's been getting a lot of momentum. I mean, I don't know. I've been really impressed with her. I can't really say I remember a lot about Carolina to be honest.
Yeah.
But I know Jodecki is definitely like
fantastic striker, and I think she's trains as Jodecki, I thought, but it's going to be a great striking match.
Yeah, because they're both undefeated, so it's going to be a bruise for somebody because somebody has to lose. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. Carolina would probably be on my crush list. I don't know about you, Nate.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
Another big fight coming up at UFC 205. Well, big fight. I mean, it's on the card. Miesha Tate is making her return to the octagon, taking on Raquel Pennington. Yeah. The last time we saw Miesha Tate, she was talking tough in the main event of UFC 200, and she ended up losing her title. But the interesting thing is that she didn't tap out because she was in a submission move. I mean, the arm was around her, but she wasn't really applying. It didn't seem like she was applying any pressure. Yeah. She tapped out from the pain. Her face was busted, and I don't necessarily know, what does Miesha Tate have really left to prove in the UFC, because I don't think that she could beat Nunes.
I don't think so either. But I think the problem is there's not enough talent in that pool. I mean, I hope that with what was it, Invicta?
Yeah.
Invicta, with a lot of those women coming over, and it's now starting to get some momentum. Like, hopefully that inspires more women to get into it, and we have more of a pool of talent to pull from. I think that's the problem right now. Is it's not that Miesha Tate, is like, oh, she's just amazing, she deserves all these opportunities. It's just, who else is gonna fight?
And also they're gonna be opening up a 145. It sounds like they want to open up a 145 for Cyborg. So they're gonna need
Cyborg.
People. And she said she'd fight her before. So, and I think she fought at 145 back at Strikeforce, because I thought it was a 145 division.
Yeah, okay. I just don't know how any fight against Cyborg would be fair, because the length of time that woman's been doing inappropriate things to make her more you can't make that go away.
It's money. They would sell that fight in Brazil, and it would sell
fair deal.
Well, same with Ronda Rousey. It would sell money, and I think they keep her around because, again, she's marketable,
and she's hot. Let's face it, she's hot. So people will want to watch it because she's a hot woman kicking some butt. No,
Miesha Tate. Oh
my God, Cyborg is a Guyborg.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. A couple of fights I want to touch on really quickly, and then we'll jump into our next segment. Weidman Romero. So Weidman's an interesting story. He had what I call 2 asterisk wins against Anderson Silva.
Yes.
Then he went on a run of Brazilians who were on their decline with Vitor Belfort, as well as help me out, was it Machida? And then he ran into Luke Rockhold, and then Herb Dean tried everything in the world to help this guy keep his title. And then eventually he's like, okay, I gotta stop this fight. How does he go against Romero? Because he's kind of gone down the whole Chad Mendes syndrome before, if that's what we want to call it, and I kind of do. So how is this fight going to be for Weidman? He's fighting in his hometown, but I don't necessarily like his chances against this guy. I think again, if it goes deep, I mean it's a 3-round fight. If it goes to 3 rounds, maybe, but. I just look at the power of Romero, and I don't know how Weidman's going to fare against him.
I'm totally with you. I kind of find that Weidman kind of had his 15 minutes of fame, and is now just I don't know. It's like flatlined. Like it's not powerful. I don't know. I don't know if it's like they need a better strategy, that he needs to maybe change camps. Like I don't know, but it was not that I've ever been a huge Weidman fan to begin with, but he was on point and he was getting momentum, and then it just went beep.
Well, the problem is the middleweight division wasn't a lot back then when he took it from Anderson, and now it's kind of getting exciting, and there's a lot of people in it. But
that's fair.
I think Romero, he's hungrier. He wants it. He hasn't been champion. I think wasn't he a jiu-jitsu or a judo silver medalist for Cuba? So he doesn't have to worry about Weidman's wrestling as much as everybody else. So I think he throws power. So. Yeah.
Gastelum Cerrone. I think everybody at this table has a lot of respect for Cowboy Cerrone.
Oh, I love him.
He's great in the cage. He's great out of the cage with fans. He's somebody who deserves to be on this card for sure.
He's a fighter.
He's a fighter. He wants to get out there. He wants to fight.
So like I like listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, so does Nathan, and listening to him, like he's totally like exactly what you think him to be. He's just a man. He loves to fight, like he's like, I need to fight so I can kind of be a normal person. And the fact that he is fighting, it feels like almost every card, like it doesn't matter. Like I just love his tenacity. I love the fact that he's ready to go at any time. He doesn't care.
Any division.
He doesn't care. Any division, any person. Like he doesn't care. Like he's just like, I want to fight somebody. And that's how I kind of feel like same thing with Conor McGregor. There's a correlation there between the two. The tenacity of, I don't care, I will beat your face.
Well, I'll disagree, because if Conor McGregor really wanted to fight, he'd go back and he'd fight Jose Aldo and give him the rematch he deserves.
But oh my gosh, but don't you think he has more cojones for going, like, not only am these guys that I've already beaten, I'm going to go find guys in other divisions to go beat.
It's money.
He's picked.
Let's be honest with ourselves. He is controlling the UFC right now. It is not Dana White.
True.
And we'll get into that later. But I'm not gonna put McGregor in the same realm as Cerrone.
All right. Cerrone's a bad.
McGregor probably, to McGregor's credit, he probably has more of the business sense in terms of he understands where his piece on the chessboard is and how he can move it. Yeah. And Cerrone's just like, man, dude, I just want to fight and give me a beer while I'm doing it.
Yeah. So true. But do you think that also is why he's gotten passed over? Because like, what did he have 9-10 wins in a row, and he didn't get a title fight? It's like, come on. Like, and is that because he's like, and I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But I think that because he's also just, I just want to fight, he's also a little bit more of a pawn, and okay, well then you'll do whatever we tell you to do, as opposed to going,
some of that as well.
I want this, and you're gonna give it to me.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some of that as well.
Yeah.
We wanted to touch on a couple other fights, Khabib and Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Tell us some stuff.
Well, just that Khabib, right before they announced the Alvarez McGregor, it was actually Dana White had tweeted it was going to be Khabib Alvarez, and I'm pretty sure he did that just to force McGregor into the card, saying, I'm going to sign him. Maybe he was really going to sign him because he promised him a title fight. He was going to be next in line for the title. So who knows? Especially if Tony Ferguson wins tonight or this weekend, then who knows who's going to get a title shot? That
but isn't he on the undercard? Like that seems like a pretty big.
I think he was probably told.
But the card is so stacked. I mean,
I guess so.
They're the Facebook prelims, if they still call it that, could be a card in itself. A couple of things I want to touch on really quickly. Rashad Evans and Kennedy. Wishing Rashad the best, because I know he's coming off of a couple of big surgeries, so I hope he's going to be okay. Yeah. And Edgar, and who the heck are you, Stevens?
Stevens.
And of course, that's a quote from Conor McGregor in the press conference. They said to Conor, they said, "Who up here could you fight?" And Stevens like, "I'll fight you." And he's like, "Who in that?" Well, censoring of course. Who in the hell are you? So Stevens has got a lot to prove against Edgar, and again in Edgar's hometown. So we'll see.
And Edgar, I have to say, like I really like Edgar too, because, or at least like in the past, he's really shown like he really is giving everything he's got in the fights, which again you got to respect. I hate the people that either they're leaners or they just lie on you. It's just like the same baloney.
Yeah. So anything else we want to say about UFC 205 before we move on?
It's just going to be exciting. And no one drop out.
Yeah.
Please, everybody on the card fight.
Yeah. So you're probably thinking, well, what in the world else can they talk about? They've talked about so much already. How about George St. Pierre? How about UFC coming back to Toronto? How about Ronda Rousey? How about Dominic Cruz? We're just getting started, so come back because we got a lot more to chat about.